How are you?
I'm very well, my friend. How are you?
Stressed, but that is the courtesy, a curse of. But now I'm way better again. So, Anthony, when I was, trying to really keep myself occupied and hoping you getting on board, I said that one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you today is we spoke to Ulrich Stetter about who's working for, really the big online printing companies, how important it is to fill up the sheets. You have with your recent investment in When Holdings, where you bought that company. I can't remember the name. You will probably tell me in a second. Yeah. You have been posting a lot of information on LinkedIn about your speed, and so I take for you it's less about filling up the sheets and more about the speed itself, right?
Now, I think if you look at most of the online organizations, they're about the maximization of square inches on a sheet in terms of predominantly 2, 4, 6, 8 pages. So the economy of scale for them on leaflet work is how obviously the online boom succeeded. For a general commercial printing business, the change or transition of sheet sizes on the press is one of the most inefficient things you can do. Obviously, online printers have the economy of scale where they can standardize a configuration of a product to a press. In general commercial, where you're trying to do everything from a business card up to a 160-page brochure, the biggest focus over the years, Morten, for me was not about necessarily machine speed, because that's a given of 15, 16 and a half, 18K, 20K. The real beauty of speed is the transition between products. And last sheet, first sheet is the biggest battleground for most general commercial companies and even packaging when you start to evaluate their throughput process. Mm-hmm. Speed is a necessity of understanding substrate performance, consumable performance. It's not just about printing quickly. Anybody can print quickly. So for me, speed of throughput is the onboarding, job transition, from estimate to sheet. But of course, we all focus on the big piece of capital grey equipment sat in the middle because it's where the focus is. But printing and speed is actually just a byproduct of whatever your business model is.
That is of course true when you say so, but I can't help think about that you have the Queen knocking your door right now, right?
Yeah. What I was speed is of essence. I just ordered that off Prime 45 minutes ago, so that's good.
Fantastic. No, I was thinking when you say that, because one of the claims I had before you joined me here, and now you can say for yourself, but was also the fact that if you look at the way that you post the data on LinkedIn, I think it also becomes like competition, and there's like this sport kind of thing to it.
Absolutely. So I think there's two things. There's, true business performance is reported at a company's house in the UK every year in terms of your trading performance. I think when you get into throughput capabilities and what people's capabilities are, I think as an industry, we need to share best practice to keep our industry right and relevant for printed products coming to market. But I've always been the same thing. If you state you can do something, we'll share it with the world. There's nothing to hide. It's all there, whether it's Logtronic, whether it's Prinect, whether it's Print OS, whether it's, Komori Connect. The information's there. So if you believe that you're doing these numbers and this performance, when I say from a social media perspective, I think our industry is under threat and has been under threat for a long period of time. And I think anything we can utilize or use between us in terms of software performance and throughput capability only enhances what our printed product can do into the market.
One of the things that I also, because you said I had to keep everybody engaged for 15 minutes, right? and I was just thinking, Anthony, because of course what you talk about is a relation to everything we do, and I understand that speed is that as well. I was thinking that also one of the bigger concerns broad commercial printers may have, not specifically in relation to speed, but more in relation to the utilization of the machine, because you and I, we have also in the past talked about the OEE, where I questioned where's the utilization, because I mean, what need do we have for fast production if we don't have the sales?
Yeah, but I think that's a common sort of misunderstanding. There's two definitions of OEE, as we said before. Overall equipment effectiveness is one coin that was phrased, and obviously different manufacturing industries into print industry. Heidelberg used that as a relevant improvement process for the subscription aspect, and then forward on to the smart print shop. OEE for me is more about overall economic evaluation of how you do things. You know, you only need to print things if you're making money from it. You know, being efficient is only one thing.
Yeah.
So I think the reality around, you know, the definition of OEE and the thought process, it brings up so many different topics, you know, because I know from if you have the right infrastructure and the right ecosystem around your business, you might not necessarily deploy the amount of units you might need to deploy from another manufacturer's product. So I've always said that I generally, without coming across as a sort of an arrogant statement, I generally believe that in most instances I can outperform double the units with half the units.
Yeah.
Because so
and
I
that
think
is why you were known for, like, when you scaled your previous company, you scaled it from B1 to B2 basically, right? Because you could basically.
but that's one aspect. But it's also it's what's right for purpose. You know, make no difference in this analogy as well. The printing part of the process is the easy process. Putting that product into a box is the difficult process. So by limiting product portfolios and understanding the positions and automation, that gives you the mindset of your lowest operating cost per sheet or unit. And I've always been a firm believer your capacity should work for you, not against you. Most printers buy too much capacity for their sales funnel. The sort of fine line is actually having a capacity model that works for you in your lowest sales months, so that you know that you can scale inside of your, you know, whether you want to use ecosystem or sales environment. So I think as an industry, we've always geared up for the 2 busy months of the year and then carried a huge overhead for 10 months. Printing for me is a definition of what we do as an organization, but it's simply a byproduct of what we do.
And I like that approach, I must admit, because I think that it's instead of having the product itself as the focal point, it basically is an output of what we do from a commercial perspective, right? But that also requires very dedicated and motivated people. I mean, is that something, when you invested in the company? I think both you and Andy said to me that it was a pretty successful company from a financial perspective, and it was a good customer base. It has a good reputation and a good staff and everything like that. But then again, I think one of you guys also said that maybe it was one of the UK's lowest OEEs from from that perspective. So all the things that you're doing right now, is that, I mean, how much does it have to do with technology and how much does it have to do with people?
I think there's a combination. You know, it's very easy to tell people what to do without showing them. You know, first and foremost, as you made reference to, they had a successful family-run company that had a nice life out of that business, and we paid a very good price for the company. So it wasn't a distress sale by any stretch of the imagination. However, one of the reasons of building the Venn organization is to have these 5 to 6 satellites of different ceilings of capacity and turnover, so that you can control the margin per site. So one of the big issues that you have with huge scale with some of the online providers that you've got there is, in a downturn, obviously there's a huge downturn. So it's not an incremental sort of degrade of your sales funnel. But for me, the reality with people is to understand why you cannot do something. My job over the years has always been to process eliminate anything out in terms of high performance. And what people have a tendency to focus on, they think that's purely from a production perspective. And the way that you schedule a press, incremental make ready, sheet size, paperweight, ink coverage, folding schemes. Most printers schedule by delivery day, and it's probably the most inefficient way to run a company. So physically understand what gives you choice as upstream activity. Controlling the press performance becomes a lot easier to do because you have continuity of volume going to the machine.
Would you say, if you look at yourself as a person, are you a patient person?
No.
Yeah. So basically, when you come into a company where you see reluctance, if that's the word, is that something that pisses you off?
No, I think there's certainly I'd say there's certainly 2 views on our print world. There's certainly what I would deem as old school print and manufacturing, and I think the reality is, you come into a situation, you talk about culture and people improving their mindset. Day one of us buying that first organization, JDP, 70% of the staff were on furlough. So trying to get a team of guys in from furlough is difficult. Trying to then consolidate a 3-press operation into a single press operation. Product realignment about what you want to attack from a sales perspective. And then from that, it's about support. I've, over the years, having spent so much time around technology and R&D with the guys at the likes of Heidelberg, you soon understand that all machines have a certain element of weakness. And if you control a weakness and you get paid for the weakness, and by that, what I mean is if you're going to do X substrates, well, I need to be paid 20% more as a market rate if I'm running it at 15 instead of 18,000. So, once you understand the sort of how you control an environment in terms of output capabilities, it's quite interesting. You've got a great guy, Mike, on from Hamptons later, who specializes in high-end quality business. But you make no mistake, machinery and technology now, it's far easier to print high quality at high speed because that's the way ink water balance, the way that the cylinder configurations are, the way the air settings are. You can move yourself into different, stochastic, 10 mic, 2 mic. There's lots of different variations. To the press, it's still a situation of the most stable environment of highest production is built for high speed.
Yes, and of course, when I spoke to Ulrich Stetter this morning as well, he also said that with the scale that they have, basically they have like the setup time and the setup cost is basically essential. So if you have volume for like one product, one machine, then it's can be more efficient doing that. And as you said, as a general commercial company, you can't do that. So of course you have to be efficient in other ways. You moved also by investing into an Indigo 100K that you got recently. How does it compare? I mean, you have been in offset for many years. So how does it compare in your mind? All the things that you've been talking about for.
I think there's different configurations. Listen, I will make a statement, and it's a statement of fact. I think the reality is that the digital providers and the digital technology markets, their understanding of break-even point against offset is so antiquated and out of touch. It's incredible. I think if you're getting into transactional and you're getting into books, of course, inkjet, it's a completely different conversation on labor savings. If we're talking about static product configurations, some of the ROI technology of a basket of work that we've had discussions over 10, 15 years, there is complementary technology, and the most important thing for a business like the one we've just bought is about labor cost savings in Postgres. So as an example, the first thing that has happened, there's a second XL75 coming into JDP. All the machines have the same hourly rate and the same labor cost. So then it's purely about press to post-press ratios of hours on machines. So, if you're getting into high-end personalization and 5 copies of this, of course, it's a completely different conversation on breakpoint. But on standard configurations, I think there is still a huge market for offset. And for me, you make no mistake, in that general commercial market, you have to have a hybrid offering. But what I will say with that 100K machine is they have redefined in terms of more robustness and uptime is completely different against the Series 4. So they are without doubt bringing through a machine that is comparable. But I still think when you're talking about quantities, 300 4-page A4s as an example, offset is still a very dominant player in that space. But for me, you look at it. Yeah, you look at it for me. Sorry, for me, it's not. I think the technology and the quality has come on so much now that there isn't this huge differential between I have to go offset, I have to go digital, I have to go inkjet. For me, it's the most cost-effective route to market at that given time, depending on capacity.
Yes, and that is. I mean, honestly, that is why I wanted to do this offset day, because I thought that there has been. I wouldn't say way too much, because I mean, of course, the new car is always more interesting than the old car, right? But I think from I mean, if you look from an overall industry perspective, I mean, the offset is still like dominating. I think that there may be one of the issues, and we have to stop soon because we're a little bit over time, and Mike is maybe waiting for us. It's basically that I wouldn't say that the offset guys have given up, because that is not true. They are investing tremendous money in R&D and new products and stuff like that. But it seems that all the focus has been on, I don't know, other topics, so to speak. And I think that we need to bring back the agenda for offset machines and offset technology. As you said, in the hybrid configuration, it's just perfect, right?
Yeah, and I think also you got to look at the buying behavior through the pandemic, online behavior from what we've all done while we've been stuck at home. I think you've got emotional context, client centricity, but I think you've also got time to market, speed of market. And the big thing for the commercial market is when the reluctance from marketeers sort of relinquishes about what comes through. But I've always been a firm believer, and I've always been able to substantiate that with fact. And that's what I've said in terms of going back to your earlier point about social media and engagement. Listen, make no mistake, I absolutely love this industry and I want it to thrive and go forward. But people need to be careful when they come into an urban environment what they believe different commercial modeling is about, because unless you can factually substantiate it, then it's just a post.
And that will be the last word, unfortunately, Anthony. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm so grateful and happy that I didn't have to step my waters for the last 20 minutes as well.
I'm sure you've done a far job for me. Take care. Have a great day, Morten. Thanks for your time.
You. Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.